Beautiful. So welcome everybody to this evening's conference with Le Cercle des Langues. Tonight we will be discussing irregular verbs. We are going to have a list and we are going to give you some tips for memorizing them. Tonight's conference is for level A1 to A2. So for the next 25 minutes, we will discuss the subject. And for the last 5 minutes, if you have any questions, you may write them down or put them into the chat so that we can then discuss them. So let's begin. In tonight's conference, we will discuss 4 parts. What are the irregular verbs? We will look at them in the past simple and the present perfect tense. We will look at them individually, so in the past simple, and for the 4th part, the present perfect tense. Let's begin. Irregular verbs. Today we will master and learn how to memorize irregular verbs easily and efficiently. So what are irregular verbs? The definition, they are verbs that do not follow the regular pattern of adding ed to form the past tense and the past participle. So remember, you will not always see a regular verb in the present simple. It won't be obvious. You will have to learn it in the past tense to see. Oh, now I can see it's a irregular verb. For example, go is in the present, went is the past simple, and gone is the third group used for the present perfect. We have eat, ate, eaten. It is essential for forming correct sentences in English. So if we can learn the 3 groups, it will help us to speak fluently. Why are irregular verbs helpful? The first is they improve fluency in speaking and writing. The reason 2 is they enhance comprehension of native speakers. And the third, they build confidence in communication. Another reason irregular verbs are important is because many of the verbs we use in our daily life are irregular. For example, the verb to be, donc c'est être, the verb to have, avoir, the verb faire, par exemple, do. So this is quite important that we learn the irregular verbs so we can have better conversations. So let's look into the past simple and the present perfect. So our table of irregular verb examples. The group would be the past simple or the present perfect. You'd get your common verbs, went and gone, your action verbs, did or done, your movement verbs, came or come, and your knowledge verbs, so knew, and your present perfect would be known. We will look at some common verb patterns so you can make some connections with the irregular conjugations. So we have a grouped table of irregular verbs. So when we talk about the first group, we are looking at our verbs that finish with O, W, N. So in the past simple, these will be verbs like grew, which become grown, knew, which become known, threw, which becomes thrown, and shown, which remains shown. If we want to know which verbs these come from, grew, c'est le verbe grandir. Knew, c'est le verbe. Ça peut être savoir et ça peut être aussi connaître. Through, c'est lancer. And shown, ça peut être le verbe montrer. All these verbs share the OWN ending in their past participle form, making them easier to recognize as a group. We then have the group of OTTEN. For example, the past simple got becomes the present perfect, gotten. Forgot will then become forgotten. The past participle of these verbs shares the OTTEN pattern, highlighting their similarity in conjugation. Then we have what we call the unchangeable verbs. In the past simple, we have put, which remains the same in the present perfect, set, and then hit, which does not change. These verbs remain the same in their base form, past simple and past participle, making them unique and straightforward to memorize. We then have the EN verbs. For example, wrote and written, broke, broken, spoke, spoken. These verbs end with en in their past participle forms, connecting them as a group. Then we have the shortened verbs. For example, ran for the past simple, run for the present perfect, began for the past simple, and begun for the present perfect. These verbs shorten their vowel sound and maintain a clean structure in the past participle form. Let's have a look now. We have explored how the groups change. Now let's look at the past simple individually. Common irregular verbs in the past simple. These verbs often show significant changes from their base form, making them unique. Examples are went, ate, had, saw, did, made, took, gave, came, and knew. So, in our common verbs, we have went, ate, and had. Our action verbs are did, made, and took. Our movement verbs are came, went, and ran. And our knowledge verbs are knew, thought, and said. How to memorize past simple irregular verbs? Practice through storytelling, either with a colleague or a family member. So here is an example of a text using the past simple irregular verbs. Yesterday I went to the market early in the morning. I ate a delicious breakfast at a small cafe nearby. Later, I saw my friend and gave her a gift I had made. By the end of the day, I knew it was a day well spent. Now remember, the verb spent, en français on dit pour avoir du temps en famille, on dit passer du temps. And for money, on dit dépenser. In English, we say to spend. And in the past simple form, it is spent. So the first thing we can do is create visual associations. Example, imagine went as a picture of someone walking through a large door labeled past. Visualizing this helps connect the idea of going in the past. Examples in our daily life are, I went to the park yesterday. She ate pizza for dinner. They had a meeting last week. We knew the solution to a problem. Another suggestion is to practice the what did you do on your weekend with your professor. For example, with your professor, you can tell them what you did over the weekend in every lesson. And this helps you become more familiar with the verbs that you use in your daily life. So when you see your professor and he says, how are you? How was your week? How was your weekend? You can reply by saying, it was great. I went to the park yesterday. I ate pizza for dinner with my family. I had a meeting and I went to visit friends. So these are just ways that we practice these irregular verbs. We can also write short stories using irregular verbs, engage in role play scenarios with friends or family, and to test yourself regularly with quizzes. Now that we have looked at the past simple, we are going to look at the present perfect tense. Regular practice helps learners recognize and use these forms naturally in conversation. So examples of the present perfect would be gone, eaten, had, seen, done, made, taken, given, come, and known. Remember, talking about the present perfect, we have a subject with the verb to have and then the past participle. Common verbs in this group are gone, eaten, and had. Action verbs are done, made, and taken. Movement verbs are come, gone, and run. Knowledge verbs are known, thought, and said. How to memorize present perfect irregular verbs. You practice with have or has constructions. Now, what are the have and has constructions? When you conjugate the verb to have, you will have I have, you have, he or she or it has, we have, you have, they have. So we then have to practice this conjugation as you do in French, parce qu'en français, vous utilisez le verbe avoir. So you can take it and add the past participle at the end. You can also use online verb conjugation tools. Daily life examples are, I have gone to that museum before. She has eaten sushi many times. They have had several opportunities. We have known each other for years. Top tips for mastering the present perfect is to focus on the have-has usage. Practice by sharing personal experiences and watch videos with present perfect examples. So in conclusion, we compare the past simple and the present perfect forms side by side so that you can see how they change. Practice switching between the two tenses in sentences. So when do we use the past simple? We use the past simple when something has started and finished in the past. It is often characterized by a date or a time or a moment in the past. Our present perfect is something that has begun in the past, however, it can continue into the present. We do not, there's never mention of when. So past simple, you will always see an exact moment. In the present perfect, you will not have this. The action is more important. Engage in activities like quizzes or verb drills online or in grammar books. Mastering irregular verbs is key to becoming fluent in English. Grouping verbs by similarity helps learners see patterns and connections. Use visual associations and daily examples to bring irregular verbs to life. So thank you for watching this conference with me this evening. Do you have any questions or things you would like to mention about the past simple or the present perfect? You can now unmute your microphone if there is anything you would like to say. No? It was all good? It was all clear? Wonderful. So you will have the PDF available for you so that you can compare between the past simple and the present perfect. So thank you everybody for joining me for this evening's conference. And I hope to see you next week, Friday, at the next conference we have. Have a beautiful evening. Bye-bye.